Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction and Renovation Magazine. This is what it used to look like when we were printing. Now we're 100% digital. There are a couple of my covers. I got JLL, the chicken guy. There's Chris Mammoth over my shoulder. Tim Houghton. I'm coming up, just had multifamily, an architect named Tabor on my last cover. That issue's getting just, surfed by the thousands, it looks like, up on the web. And coming up, I think I've got an airport developer. So all exciting things going on there. I'm actually lucky to be on here, have wicked thunderstorms come through here again. I know the last couple of podcasts, we've talked about storms knocking out the power. Once again, it's been raining down here every day, hot and muggy, typical summer weather in Atlanta, Georgia. But this morning, God, some big boomers came through and knocked down a tree. The power went out like 5 or 6 times, then it went out again. Now it just came on. So we're lucky to have this on. But you know what? The lake's a full pool. So we'll take it, at the end of July. I mean, rarely, it's probably down 5 or 6 feet. It's a full pool. We're getting rained on every day. It's been raining every day here, nice. And then thunderstorms come in. I mean, we're talking torrential downpours. I mean, just pouring, but we need the water in the south. It's so hot. Feed all the farmers downstream from, south of Atlanta into southern Georgia, Florida, Alabama. The other lakes on the west side of town feeds Tennessee and, Mississippi. I mean, everybody needs water. Water's just, keeps everything going. So we like to see as least water coming out of the dam as possible, but it's been raining, so I know they're going to be letting water out. I just drove over there last night. It was just below full pool, and once again, it just dumped again today. And we're earth stacked because I know down in Texas they need a lot of water. They need rain desperately. So I wish I could force some of the water down in their direction. But here in Atlanta, listen, if they didn't build Lake Lanier, I don't know what they were going to do with the city because it was built on concrete and clay, and the water just runs off. So now they flooded the plain. And Lake Lanier, if you don't know about it, it's a huge lake. It's got 59 miles of coastline. I mean, it's a big, big lake. I don't know how many acres it is. It's like an ocean out there. You get in a storm, we have a little boat, man, it'll rock you, So I remember one night I was on my jet ski and it was late, and my bud's like, "You sure you want to go across the lake?" I'm like, yeah. So I have a 3-seater, and I'm blowing across the lake, and I'm sitting on I just filled the my jet ski up, and I'm sitting on that 5 or 6 gallons of gas. It's lightning out. The waves are just crashing over the front. I make my way through, and I pull up, and there are a couple of good old boys in their fishing boat, and they're like, "Hey there, Sonny, did you just come across the lake?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was hairy, man. It was like, it was a storm out there." He goes, "Yeah, buddy, man, there were some big old waves. I can't believe you're on that little thing." I'm like, and I was like, "Yeah, I got a wetsuit on." I wasn't scared, but it was dark, and it's just dicey. You've been in the middle of the lake, something happens, and you don't know what you're gonna do. But that was probably the hairiest thing that I've done in a long time, was go in that thunderstorm. Lightning and raining, and I blew across the lake, because I wanted to get my jet ski, out of the water and get it home. And I didn't want to beach it up on, some land. And but they were just like, "Wow, that was dicey, man, going out there. You got some chutzpah, to do that stuff." So anyway, crazy stuff, you do. But anyway, so we're glad we have power. Thank God we got some air conditioning too, so I'm not sweating my tail off. Today, got a very cool guest. Many of you know that my family's in steel recycling since 1988, and another man's junk is another man's gold. That was our basically motto. And we're still in business today, and they're still scrapping metal and finding stuff and gems, needles in the haystack per se, that are beautiful. And a lot of people are into sustainability these days, reuse, taking old buildings, making them into new ones. Taking old fixtures, using those, or barns to do flooring or tables. That's great, versus buying new. I kind of look at, old items kind of like, dogs in the pound, versus buying a new dog. Go get the pound. Go get the dog in the pound. I mean, they're just as good as the new ones, and they're probably could even be better. So, my wife's a rescuer. We got 5 dogs. They're all rescues. They're not new. And I kind of look at them as, the same kind of gig, as far as reuse. So today we have a nice gentleman. He's up in the up in the Big Apple down in Soho. His name is Joe Stren. He's the store manager of Olde Good Things. So Joe, say hi to our audience out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hi, folks.
Hey, welcome. And what's the weather like in the Big Apple today?
Well, thanks, David, for having me on your podcast. Today, it's hot. It's probably about 85 degrees. Speaking of thunderstorms, we just had one come rushing through us for about 20 minutes. And it's supposed to thunderstorm again later on unless the weather changes. Seems like it changes every 20 minutes around here lately. Hot and humid, but the store is air conditioned. We're good to go.
Yeah, I grew up on 75th and 3rd in Manhattan, and my parents were in furniture, and we had our showroom down on 32nd and Lex. So I remember all the summers, and when the storms would come in. You don't worry about tornadoes like you have that down here in the South, but you can still get some pretty good storms that come through there. And
yeah, that's true.
You don't want to be on the LIE or the Grand Central Parkway because it floods. And I've been in those things too, and as well as in New York. It's just one of those things. So, but once again, you'll take the water. Central Park, I'm sure, would love to have all the water to keep everything green. So
sure, yeah, definitely.
So the reason why I had Joe on is that first of all, he's got 6 locations, 4 stores, 2 distribution centers, about 250,000 square feet of space, and it's all open to the public. And what they do is they take old items and, make them into reuse items, and people can come in and, if you're an interior designer or you're a retailer or a hotelier and you're looking for some cool stuff, he's got locations all over the country. And if you're looking for that unique kind of gig that maybe you can even look at, maybe replicate or use some of the stuff that's there, this is the place to go. And everybody talks sustainability these days and saving the environment and all this kind of stuff. So I figured that Joe, would be a really good person to kind of talk about, his store, how they made it through the roller coaster the last couple of months, what he foresees, coming down the pike, and, what people might be looking for, in this area. So Joe, the way that this works is we do it in 3 parts. First, you have to tell your story, where you grew up, if you had any kids, daughters, married, and you went to school, and then how you ended up at, Olde Good Things. And then we'll talk about the last 24 months, lessons learned, and then we'll finish up with your positive thought or phrase, and then your contact info. So with that said, the floor is yours, Joe. Tell us your story.
Great. Well, I grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania, small coal mining town. And
well, I'm from Philly, so what was the town?
Frackville.
Frackville. What's the nearest biggest town next to Frackville? Where?
It's Hazleton.
Hazleton. There you go. Okay, I know well.
North of us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up there my whole life. The house has been in the family for generations. One of those type, goes back 200 years. Graduated. I was going to school actually in high school. I took an electronics course, getting ready for electrical engineering, and 3 years of that in high school. And I was getting ready to graduate, but then that was when there was a glut of electrical engineers. Matter of fact, when I was graduating, they had a projected glut of 75,000 electrical engineers in the country. So that wasn't going to pan out too well. So I made my way to New York City. Hey, the Big Apple. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, all that. Mm-hmm. And started working in a garment factory eventually. And garment was like big back in those days in the mid 70s. And New York, especially here, the whole garment district.
Well, for people that aren't familiar with the garment district, it's basically, I'm going to say 36th Street or 34th or 35th to about 44th between 6th and 8th, somewhere in there. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
completely
changed.
Find
anything you want in anything, buttons, clothes, textiles, you name it. I mean, that's the garment district. So if you go to New York, you go there, you can find anything.
Yeah, now it's completely changed. It's almost all condos.
Oh yeah,
condos, office space. that type of thing.
You know, I was talking to a hangar guy, my buddy Bert, and he's been in hangars forever. And he would go down to the garment district. He knew everybody in there. We were just talking the other night. He goes, David, you would not believe what the garment district's not the same. You wouldn't even recognize it. All the stores are gone. They redeveloped it, and it's kind of almost gone. And you know, because when I remember one of my early publishing days when I was on a display magazine, a lot of the virtual merchandising and the visual guys were kind of, you know, scattered about in that area, and they're all gone. And he said, yeah, you'd be shocked if you went down there. It's not, it's like, it's, there's only so many of them left. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah, it's really true.
Mm-hmm.
City has changed a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I wound up in sort of like a small construction company. We would go in, we would paint, move some doors, you know, just minor carpentry type stuff. And one of us went to the flea market, because at that point around 24th and 6th, there was a whole bunch of flea markets, or like 8, in all these little parking lots, abandoned lots on the weekend. Now, again, of course, that's all condo, they're all gone, except for 1, maybe 2. But back in the day, that was the place to go. So one of my friends was walking through there, came back and said, you know, to work, said, you know, the stuff that we're throwing out, people are selling in that flea market. You know, the doors, the doorknobs, lighting. So some of the guys got a load together, went to the flea market, and lo and behold, people bought it. And after that, we were all hooked. One by one, we started looking in dumpsters in areas that were getting renovated, you know, pulling doors out, doorknobs, you know, old 1800s fretwork, all the cool details that make like a Brooklyn brownstone, Brooklyn brownstone. You take it to the flea market Saturday, Sunday, put the blanket out, put the fretwork out, put the doorknobs on the table, and wait till people came over and bought it. And it was good. We started doing more and more of that until finally we started hooking up with other demolition contractors, project managers, other individuals who were selling their house or renovating. And we just started pulling all this stuff together, doing flea markets, and eventually we got our first store in Brooklyn on Atlantic Avenue. You're an old Manhattanite, you probably remember.
Oh, no, I know where it is. Yeah, absolutely.
Atlantic Avenue is known as Antiques Row. They're up and down all along west of Flatbush. So we got a store there, and we just started growing. We got that, you know, then the lease, the rental space went up, you know, how much the lease was going to be. So we moved, we got a store in Manhattan on 24th Street in the basement. And that was like a big deal, moving into Manhattan instead of a little neighborhood store in Brooklyn. But the one advantage was that was right across the street from a flea market. So it wound up that what we would do is we would open up really early in the morning. And then the dealers, the designers, you know, people who are in flea marketeers, they would hit the flea market, you know, with all the early vendors, then they would come over to the store. So, you know, it was really a good setup. And we started doing a lot of wholesaling, because wholesaling really is where it's at. You know, there's an old saying, you sell retail once, but you sell wholesale twice. Because they got a good deal the first time, they'll come back to second, third, and fourth. So we really started aiming at wholesaling to, you know, carpenters who are looking for doors, obvious, people who wanted like 20 sets of brownstone doorknobs, all matching with the rosettes, with the locks, all that kind of stuff. The lighting, you know, for the entryway. And the business just started growing more and more. And here we are now. Well, we started in the mid-90s, and here we are now about 27, 28 years later.
Yeah, location. It's
Yeah,
retail, I mean, you can't say it, much better. I mean, you picked a great spot. You had people that would use your stuff, and I can just imagine that open early. People are probably waiting at the door for you to open up, because they want to get the early bird. Early bird gets the worm, and they would get the coolest stuff, and either go back and sell it, and you didn't care. Like I said, they're repeat customers. Where the other people that are going to the flea market, they're getting one, or one door or whatever. They might get 10 from you. So it when we grew up, we had the old furnaces in our apartment. The old ones that would whistle.
yeah.
And, those things were classic. I mean, now that the electric air conditioning is all upgraded, and the Green Deal and everything's. But I always remember New York. It was the old heaters in our apartment, and the really heavy metal doors, with the doorbell with the little eye that you look at,
People.
oh yeah, the people, yeah. So it's it. I'll tell you, some of my friends were deadheads when we grew up, So my friend has got more deadhead on Maxell CDs. So he found this library was getting demoed in South Jersey, and anyway, he went in there, bought all the little boxes that the cards were in for the Dewey Decimal System, and anyway, he put all of his tapes in there, and it is the coolest piece in his house, and it's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Grateful Dead tapes. Rolling Stones in there, all sorts of stuff is in there, but it's mostly Grateful Dead. But every
Sure.
time I go up there, I'm like, oh my God, that is like the coolest piece that you ever get. He goes, oh my God, I think I paid $20 for it,
Sure.
but it is beautiful. The artwork on it and all the doors. I mean, it's just beautiful. And that's what makes New York so cool. You look at some of the architecture that's there. It was just, the new buildings are cool, they're slick, and but if you look at some of the old buildings, even your house that you lived in it was 200 years old. It probably had some really cool craftsmanship, and they just don't do that stuff these days.
They don't.
No, they
It's really
don't.
true.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that about New York City that impressed me when I first got here. Is that I had never been to New York before like that. And I was just amazed at all the old detail. I mean, I didn't know what Art Deco was. I didn't know what Art Nouveau was, all these different ages. I didn't know any of it. I just knew that there was a lot of detail and craftsmanship. And I used to walk around just looking up. It's still that way, a lot of the old buildings are still there.
So when you branched out and you started building other locations or securing other locations, what was your mindset there? As far as targeting certain markets. Talk about that.
Well, we were doing really well next to the flea market. Eventually, like I said, we had started out in the basement. We took over the first floor, which coincidentally was a construction company, and they moved out to go, different, bigger, better, all that stuff. So we took over the first floor, and that's when our business really started taking off. Because you'd walk into a first floor more so than a basement,
Mm-hmm.
So then we had both floors. But eventually, as we grew, we thought, well, we should expand. So we had our first warehouse on Atlantic Avenue all the way down the far end, because Atlantic Avenue is one of the main thoroughfares for those who do not know. We had a lease there, and we outgrew that, so we got a warehouse in New Jersey right off of Route 3, which was way bigger. We started filling that up. And then more and more, we started, the business just in general was growing. We have, and we still have, a lot of fixer-uppers, home restorers, like Brooklynites, Park Slope. They're looking for the 20 sets of doorknobs matching, like I said, or they need a new brownstone entry door, or that kind of thing. But then we're also getting the designers in, because a lot of those old brownstones had really killer, hand-carved marble mantles on the first floor. First floor, for those who don't know, the first floor of a brownstone was usually the most ornate. And the second floor was less, third floor was less, and the top floor was very plain. So we started getting a lot of marble mantles, and we got a lot of designers coming in. So we considered what we should do. And eventually we outgrew that warehouse in New Jersey. So we got a huge warehouse in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, just
That
above
was the
your house.
first of two. And that's far from New York. It's like 2.5 hours. But our business more and more was growing, and we were sending our own people with our own trucks all over the country to do deliveries. Now, with this whole last few months or last few years roller coaster, we've pulled back on our trucks because of that. We ship nowadays, but our trucks are going everywhere, and Scranton is very convenient to the interstates.
Mhm.
It's convenient to the 80 coming into Manhattan, 81 going down south, 80 going west. So we got our first warehouse there. Then we got a second store in New York, which I can't even remember now, because we change locations all the time, because once your lease is up, they raise the rent. It's time to
Oh,
move,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Unless it's a
So
co-op or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
New York. Hmm.
yeah. So like right now, we have 3 stores in New York. We have the one that I work at, that's Bowery and Houston, right across from the Whole Foods. Then our newest showroom is at 333 West 52nd, right across from the post office here, for those who know New York. And that's where you find the high-end marble mantles, some of the 3,500 pieces of lighting from the Waldorf Astoria, that kind of thing that we salvaged. Then we have another store on the Upper West Side, which is like a furniture store, in 90th and Broadway. But anyway, getting back to it, we're sending trucks all over the country. So we noticed, because this was when eBay was just starting, when we were really getting going. And we noticed that we were shipping a lot to Los Angeles, San Francisco, and the West Coast in general. So we're considering our next move. We thought, well, if we're shipping so much stuff there, there must be a market there.
Yeah, why not have it there and not cut the shipping out and take that money and put it towards your lease or your rent, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
And when you consider, LA really took off after World War II, and even then it was small compared to now. It didn't have the type of merchandise that we could get out of the brownstones or out of the lobbies of, the garment district, the skyscrapers. So we got a warehouse downtown LA, which we now own. And it just so happened it was at the intersection of the I-10 and Interstate 10 and the 110, I think it is.
Is it the
It's been a while
115 or
since
the
I've been out.
110? Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
got
the 110.
Uh-huh.
And we didn't know it at the time. When you come eastbound on the I-10, as soon as you cross the 110, the next exit is a Grand Avenue exit. You come down the ramp, we're the first building on the right. And we got it primarily as a warehouse. So we could send tractor trailers there, unload, and then our delivery trucks could go
Yeah,
over.
local. Hmm.
Yeah, an expansion type thing. We didn't know at the time, but it turns out that warehouse that we were renting was 3 blocks away from a design building in LA. And all these designers would come down. We would have the stuff out on the sidewalk that we're getting ready to deliver, or some stuff that we had for sale. These our trucks would sell to the local people where they were going, as well as deliver, the antique shops. It was like a mixed type of delivery system, selling and delivering. And all these designers are coming down the ramp, they would see the stuff, they would pull over. So it wound up that we're doing a lot of sales. So instead of being a warehouse, it became this cool little unique garage warehouse showroom.
Word of mouth advertising. It's the best.
It really is. And we just had a lot of a lot of designers coming down. And that's how our LA store got started. And we've been there now, I'm not sure exactly, but it's somewhere around 18 years.
Wow.
Yeah, downtown LA. Then we expanded different locations in Manhattan, like I said, switching around. But we're always, before we switch a location, we always look, where aren't we known? Where don't people know us? Because, the whole thing is like to spread the word. Here we are, and to develop a new client base. And that's how we grew. And then the Scranton warehouse, the first one was 85,000 square feet. Originally, they used to assemble trolleys in there, trolley cars, and it was a trolley car repair shop. That's how big it is. Cavernous, huge, long, hundreds of feet long. Then we got a second warehouse in Scranton, the old Capitol Records building.
Oh, that must have been cool.
It was, when I was first going there, I thought, there's all kinds of old record equipment. Maybe there's records in the wall, It turned out it was like spot clean.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing there. But it was a cool building anyway, because it had a certain mystique. That's where all the Beatles records were pressed during the 60s. And, they had like guards there and everything, because if you could get one of those records before it got released, that was big news. So
yeah,
it was guarded and stuff. But we do have the Capitol Records building sign, a neon sign, but we're keeping that.
Yeah.
So we have the two warehouses there, and the business is developing.
When with technology, obviously, you have to know what inventory you have. So if someone called you on the phone, and then with the internet, someone would send you an email as time goes on. I imagine you went from spreadsheets to software, so you knew exactly, what location. If someone called in and say, "Hey, I need this type of mantle," do you have you just key it in, and so that transformation too, from just putting stuff on the blanket, to having on a shelf, to being able to go and find it and pick it. That was probably big gig too. Am I correct?
Yeah, right now our website, oldegoodthings.com, old with an E, name of the company. We have about 14 or 15,000 items. And that's still only, in my guess, maybe 40% of our inventory.
Yeah.
We have 2 full-time photographers working, photographing. We have another crew that inputs and updates the website. We sell on a few different websites besides ours, like First Dibs, eBay, Etsy. These are different markets. Cherish, different markets, so we sell different things. These are different levels, as well as our website. So we're especially with the turmoil the last couple of years, we're doing a lot more electronic sales and aiming at that.
So what's the piece behind you? Any historical value that we're looking at, or?
Yeah, these are 2 lobby grills from Midtown Manhattan, from a lobby, and they're painted goldish bronze. I believe that they are bronze. Truthfully, I can't remember. The only way to really know is put a magnet on it. But it's your typical sort of like a quadrifoil design. You see the screw holes around it. You can see one of them in the bottom corner has this little doorway that would open up. They could go in and crank the knob on the cast iron hot steam radiator.
Yeah.
It was decorative. So we get cool stuff like that, and people, who's going to have a use for something like that in their house as a grill? But they'll take that and they'll turn that into a coffee table.
Awesome.
Load a few legs on, put a nice piece of tempered glass on top, and away you go. So that's like a piece of reuse material right there.
Talking about the last 24 months and the roller coaster, and obviously the Big Apple's opening up, and and there's still some. It doesn't matter what stage. There's still complications, with stuff. But if there were any, what lessons did you learn, over the last 24 months going through, this roller coaster that we all gone through, and now we're kind of open back up, that our listeners out there in commercial construction coffee talk might find value in.
Right. Well, one thing I've noticed that, as we all know, a lot of people fled New York City, who had second homes. And right now, there's the beginning of a resurgence with a lot of people moving into New York City because there's a lot of empty apartments, empty spaces. And actually, right now, rents have hit like an all-time high for the last, I believe, 2 years. I forget, I read it a couple of days ago. But what we're seeing now is we sort of have two markets, because this type of stuff, or like I was saying, the 230 Waldorf Astoria mantles that we salvaged, or the 3,500 pieces of lighting out of the Waldorf, that's one market. Then you have another market where people are coming in and they're just moving in from somewhere else. They don't have that type of income, and yet they want to furnish it. So we need like a different aim, simple dressers, inexpensive tables that, we make out of little floor joists that have the look, but are very reasonably priced. So you have like a little bit of a striation in the market. And so we have, each of the stores is aimed that way. The three stores, overall, they're aimed three different ways. One at Bowery and Houston, that's more of a curiosity shop, cool little objects. There's a younger crowd moving in to Soho and to the Village. So it's aimed at that. The Midtown store here, like I was saying, that's aimed at people who have the second homes. And the Uptown is, young families, in 93rd Broadway, who need like the simple dresser, that type of thing. Another thing that we've noticed, that being that a lot of people have moved out, they work with the same designers for their apartments here in the city. So we're doing pretty steady work with designers, but now instead of delivering to 73rd and 2nd, we'll be sending it to upstate Vermont, or Montana. Like right now, I'm in the middle of doing an 8,000 square foot steakhouse in Montana, from a designer that we've known for 10 years. And he brought them here to get lighting for the new steakhouse.
Awesome.
So, we're doing a lot of like that type of out of city type sales.
Yeah. It's amazing, that, the 24 months ago, we don't know how long, this and that, and now we're here, and you're still standing today, you're surviving, you use technology to get things done, and now, you've created two markets, where there was maybe one market, now you've got 2 or 3 different types of markets, even in the city, let alone across the country. And, with the power of the web, when you have a website, you think you might be a regional person, but you're actually global. So anybody can find you. And, for people that are looking out there, listen, for all you out there in commercial construction coffee talk, I know you all have homes. You might be building new homes. You might be renovating stuff, even your stores. If you're looking for something cool, here's a good asset, for, maybe they might be able to help you, maybe they're not, but, curiosity to kill a cat, go to the website and, if someone wanted to get in contact with you, Joe, how would they reach you, or your store?
Well, the easiest way is through our website, oldegoodthings.com, old with an E. Or another way that would direct to it is OGT, as in Olde Good Things, ogtstore.com. That's really the easiest. And you'd see like a pretty good representation of what we have available.
Well, listen, you've been around the block, you're going to be an electrical engineer, you're in construction, You started your business from scratch. You didn't even know what it was going to turn into. Now you're basically a retailer, across the country, probably worldwide. Who knows if people know you, but the bottom line is, excellent job. If you were going to leave one positive thought or phrase with our listeners out there in Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, as we finish up the third quarter and go into the fourth quarter of 2022 and move into 2023, what would it be?
Well, someone once told me you could sell to your previous customer more easily than you can to a total new customer because you're already sold to them. And I hate to just sound like a broken record because we've all heard it, but really, take care of your customer base, customer satisfaction, because they'll come back to you. And that's what you want. Because every time you sell to a new customer, you have to sell to the new customer. A previous customer, they already know you. So take care of your previous customers, they'll come back to you.
I can't agree with you more. And, as a publisher, just the other day, we had someone had run a new ad with us, and we had picked up, something happened with the ad that we ran. Anyway, they sent us, hey, what happened? And I said, don't worry about it. We're going to swap it out. We're digital. That's the beautiful digital. I'll just pop it back on. I'm just going to run the next ad, no charge for you. I'm not going to worry about it. You've been a supporter for years. Don't sweat it. Okay. It's not a big deal. When print, that was a whole different story back then, but being digital, but I don't even question anybody. The customer's always right as far as I'm concerned. So if I'd rather beat them to the punch, don't worry about it. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take care of it. And, you're going to be a happy camper. And, because everybody can pull low hanging fruit, for sales wise, but your customer base, I mean, that's who got you where you are today. So I would treat them like gold. I listen, in retail, if you're not growing, you're dying. So they have to build new stores. They have to get new customers, but the same thing with me. I have a list of, probably 1,400 people that probably should advertise with me that look in other magazines. And if I can knock off 3 or 4% of those every year and maintain my customer base, because I'm not going to keep them all, but I keep most of them, that's just a nice little increase, and it keeps our magazine pick. And, but, keeping your customers, I always touch base with them and make sure everything's going okay. And if they need anything, I bend over backwards, to get those things done. Even if I have to do jumping jacks or somersaults, whatever, customer satisfaction and keeping those people happy is probably the golden rule of business as far as I mean, new business is a priority, but keeping that base is definitely, really important. You'll like this. My grandfather, he was in World War II, and they were in scrap metal, but they had an old car museum that they bought all of the old manuals and stuff. And when World War II was over, they were scrapping all the Jeeps and tanks. Anyway, they had an auto museum called Pollock Automotive Showcase. It was in downtown Pottstown, and it was a 3-story building. And they had all of the old manuals for Model Ts and so forth. And little by little, people would need something, they would find them. This is before the internet. And they would have all the pieces, and they would restore old cars. And they ended up having probably 300 or 400 cars in this museum. And
wow.
And we would restore it. And now they've sold the cars off, and the museum, someone bought the museum, and he sells the restoration stop. But it was the same thing. It was taking an old, rusted piece, and, you see these TV shows where they renovate them, but here we were doing it before all that stuff was even there. And I remember going up, we had the Clockwork Orange in there. We had Stunt Spare Cats. We had the Clockwork Orange in there. I mean, it rained, old motorcycles. And it was an amazing thing because on the main floor was the parts store. And it was just shelves of just all sorts of stuff, hubcaps, stick shifts, transmissions, brakes for all sorts of cars. So I can imagine what your, 15,000 of products, look like, on the shelves. I can imagine it just like, our downstairs. So, and I can appreciate all that stuff. So, this has been exciting. I like talking about old stuff. It's like I said, my wife's in interior design. She goes to the shops, and she's like, oh my God, look what I brought home. Like, we're going to do this to it, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So, Well, Joe, enjoy the rest of the summer up in the Big Apple. All right. So, let me know when you have another store coming into Atlanta, and I'll, give you the exposure treatment and so forth. God knows we could probably use another one up here, up here. I'm sure there's plenty of old stuff down here. God, you walk around, they got it in their yards, this and that. I mean, it's crazy. And,
Sure.
but thank you so much. Thank you for taking care and being sustainable and taking all of those old things that people think aren't worth it or whatever. They're beautiful, and then you're making people happy, and you're getting it all over the country. And what a great story, electrical engineer to contractor to starting out, and look where you are now. I mean, that's the American way, I mean, capitalism at its best. So congratulations to you and your team at, All Good Things. So if you're out there, guys, ladies, you're looking for something old, something cool, maybe for your office, for your own home, get in touch with Joe. He'll take care of you. And with that said, everybody out there, coming to the end of July, got about another 5 weeks, got Labor Day, and then it's the run through, up to Thanksgiving, then the holidays, and boom, we're almost going to be in 2023. So for all you that made it through the last 24, 28 months, congratulations, you're still standing, all right? Because you stayed positive, kept the blinders on, and you did what you needed to do to survive. And so keep that up, and stay positive, have fun. Listen, you still got summer left, go spend some time with your family, recharge your batteries, and get ready to finish off Q3 and go into Q4, and we'll all finish off 2022 on a positive note. So Joe, I normally do a cocktail party in September in New York. I don't know if I'm going up there or not. All depends on what's going on in the city. But if I do, I'm going to come down and see your store. I hope I get the grand tour.
Oh, I would definitely.
Yeah, no, I definitely would like to go down there and check it out. And I still have friends up there. So when I'm family, I go up there. I'll spend a couple days, and we normally do it during the San Gennaro Festival. I mean, that's kind of
sure.
the week that we do it. But I do it normally on a Thursday night. And with the roller coaster, everything was shut down. But people have been bugging me. Hey, you're going to come back up here? You're going to do it? And I'm like, yeah. In New York, we get 120, 150 people at our reception. So. It's time to get things, back going and, get on the horse per se. So Joe, pleasure meeting you. I'm so glad your publicist reached out to us. And for all you out there, commercial construction coffee talk, you call Joe, call Joe, see what he can offer you. And for those of you who want to reach me, I'm a David C at ccr-mag.com. If you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe page. We send the magazine out to 125,000 people. We get about 2.5 million people a month that hit our website consuming content. If you got something, I don't care if it's a charity golf tournament, new product, personnel announcement, case study, send it to me. Just like Joe, he looks at everything. I look at everything. I'll find a place for it, whether it's very tough to get in the magazine, but we got all these social media channels and so forth. And I come back to you personally. I'll personally respond to you. Send it to me. And I know you hate when I say this, but if you don't buy a ticket, you can't win the lottery. If you don't send me something, I can't post it or, give you some exposure. So, yeah, and you never know what might end up in ink, or digital ink, I should say. So with that said, Joe, say goodbye from the Big Apple.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, David, for having me.
No, thank you. And all you out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, listen, have a great weekend. Finish out July. August, boom, we're going to go make it through the rest of the year and finish the year on a positive note. And make sure if you're working out there in the hot sun and humidity, drink lots of water and stay hydrated. So with that said, we will see you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. And Joe, I hope to see you up there in September. Okay, no fist bumps. I'm shaking your hand. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We will see you next time. See you, Joe. Look forward to it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You bet.